Hello and welcome back to For St. Pete's Sake. My name is Christian Hotchkiss. I am your host and the president of the Stonewall Democrats. This is, of course, the podcast where we deep dive into everything political here in Pinellas County and the state of Florida and beyond. I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-host and amazing vice president, Laura Gherkin. Laura, how are you?
Hi, Christian. I'm doing okay. I think I was doing the math and I've been going strong with events like almost every day since Memorial Day. So I don't have to do anything on Saturday and I get to sleep in. So I'm excited for that coming up.
Yes, it's going to be a nice, relaxing weekend. Pride Month it's been a busy month for us,
Yeah,
both with Stonewall and outside of Stonewall. It's been a lot of
absolutely.
events. So, we've had a lot of fun, but it's been a lot of hard work.
Yep,
So,
as it always is.
yeah, yeah. And, I think we have a guest tonight that knows a lot about fun, but a lot about hard work too. So,
Absolutely.
it's a pleasure to introduce candidate for State House 62, but of course, our dear friend. I've known her for a few years, and I'm excited to get to speak with her for tonight. Please welcome Kyandra Darling.
Thank you so much, Christian and Laura, for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you all tonight.
We're going to add in the thunderous round of applause later on
Yeah,
in
exactly.
post edit. How are you? How are you, Kyandra? How are you doing?
Well, a lot like Laura, I have been hitting the ground running really hard since launching this campaign in March. Things have been nonstop, but I've been saying that's a good thing. I think it's reassuring to see such great energy this early ahead of the election cycle. So I'm super excited. I've been showing up in community at a number of community gatherings and speaking to folks, and so it's been a very busy season for me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can imagine, and it's great to see you out on the campaign trail. And you came to our Pride and Progress dinner a few weeks ago, so we're very thankful for that. And
Yeah.
hearing from you as always is such an incredible time. So we really do appreciate that. And I want to give you a few minutes to kind of just introduce yourself, give your background, what got you involved in politics, and where do you want to go from here? What's your goals and things like that?
So, first off, it was incredible to be at the Pride and Progress dinner. So, very grateful to be included in that. And you all kind of know a bit of this story, but I am a fourth generation resident to this area. So not new to this, as I like to tell folks, I'm very true to this. This race is very personal to me. The people who are on the ground in District 62 are family, they're friends, they're neighbors, they're individuals that I've worked alongside. And the things that I'm seeing people struggle with to afford day-to-day costs from housing to groceries to insurance has absolutely pushed me to a space where I've decided that it's time to get more active. So in my time in community, a lot of my work has been in the public sector with interning with Congressman Charlie Crist to working as a legislative aide for city council. I had the opportunity to work with Councilmember Steve Cornell and Lisa Wheeler Bowman, who is still working with the city today. Those were incredible community advocates for me to have the opportunity to serve alongside and to really learn the ropes as far as it relates to local government. And after some time at City Hall, I started to really identify where some of the gaps were that often policy left unaddressed before moving over to the nonprofit space and working almost the last 5 years for an organization that funds nonprofits throughout Pinellas County to focus on different social determinants of health. So we've touched everything from housing to access to healthcare to workforce development and education to food deserts and mobilizing communities to be able to influence directly policy that's happening here locally and abroad. So it's been really exciting to have the experience from government side, but also to work alongside the service providers and those critical resources on the ground to understand where the gaps are and what the true needs of people are here. And then this just last campaign cycle, after going to serve as a delegate, representing Pinellas at the Democratic National Convention, where I had the opportunity to hear from Barack Obama, one of our favorite presidents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Obama, and also Kamala and some other all-stars. So Really excited to represent us that way and to come back here and to lead the Harris for President campaign on the ground as the regional organizer for Hillsborough County, where we touched over 889,000 people throughout the state of Florida with only a team of 10, which showed me what was possible when you start to build coalitions and work with people who are already on the ground.
Mhm.
After coming out of that presidential election, the very first thing for me became, all right, that didn't go as we liked. I had to take a moment to step back and decompress. I think like many of us did. And afterwards, I came back swinging. I started thinking about where is the greatest opportunity for us to engage, and Tallahassee is that place right now. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to step up and continue to champion the community and to be an advocate, but in a new space and place by fighting for us in Tallahassee when we need it, I would say more than ever under this new administration. So that's just some of the work that I've done and some of the things that have really just fired me up this season to get active. This is the time for us to be tapped in and tuned on. And we need people who are
Mhm.
unafraid to go into Tallahassee to advocate for the things that really matter to the people who live here, who retire here, and are raising families here. I've been that advocate on the ground, and I'm looking forward to being that advocate in Tallahassee.
That's
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. So like we mentioned, you're running in District 62, which is currently held by Michelle Rayner. She's moving on and she's going to run for U.S. or state Senate. I apologize. There have been a couple of other candidates that have announced in District 62. So what are you seeing this campaign look like, and what are you experiencing on the ground as the campaign and the primary starts to open up and you get these other individuals? By the way, one of the things that Laura and I talked about when we first started this podcast is getting local candidates on. So if any local candidate is listening for any office, we would love to have you, and there is an invitation, and we will be reaching out, I'm sure. So, but as the field kind of expands, what are you seeing on the ground level and things like that?
So first, as it relates to the field expanding, I think it's great that there are people that are willing and ready to step up and to serve the people. This is the democratic process at its best, right? I in no way expected to step into this race and to run alone, and really welcome that challenge because ultimately this is the people's seat, and the people should get to choose who they feel is the best representative for them. So I actually get a little fired up by having challengers in this race.
Yeah.
It really excites me to really see that in action and to be able to experience it myself. As far as what I've seen on the ground, I mean, our first month out, we broke a record for this seat in this district by raising more than $32,000 in around 26 days. And that energy has continued. We've now raised close to $50,000 just on the ground. And so seeing people step up this early in order to really invest, although we are more than a year out, I think it shows people that folks are tapped in and tuned on and paying attention, and they do care about what's going on right now in Tallahassee. So from the support that we've seen in community through fundraising efforts and also through the support that we've seen in early endorsements, we have secured 19 endorsements for this campaign. 17 of those individuals being current and former elected officials throughout Pinellas County and Hillsborough County. And that was intentional because I want to show that there is support across the region. So when I talk about building those cross-sector collaborations, these are the individuals that I want to be working alongside in order to make sure that we're moving this work forward on behalf of all of us. So that said, having that show of support through those endorsements, especially this early as a first-time candidate, I think speaks to the work. It speaks to the excitement on the ground. Ruth's List is amongst that, and we were endorsed amongst only one of four candidates chosen around the state of Florida for their early endorsements. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. People, from what I've seen, have really been kind of waiting for this moment. I think some folks have been curious and kind of seen me maybe inching in this direction for some time,
Okay.
which I think is interesting feedback. But we've had really great energy on the ground. And while endorsements do not win an election, they do show support. And I think they do speak to the work that you're doing on the ground, and that's helpful in getting our message out even beyond District 62.
Absolutely. So actually, I have a quick question. When you said Hillsborough, I guess I didn't realize that part of Hillsborough is in the district. So do you mind giving us a little, for especially for those who may not be aware, a little descriptor of what all the district encompasses?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it because we redistrict all the time. So from the
Right.
numbers changing to the places that we're representing changing, that happens often. So right now, District 62 encompasses mainly South St. Petersburg. From about Central Avenue mainly, there's a little bit of some spillover into a little further north in some areas, but the main divider is like Central Avenue.
Okay.
And we go out as far west as Childs Park area, and then we're all south. And then because of gerrymandering, our district is now, it cuts across the water and into Hillsborough County and touches specifically over there Progress Village. It touches Claremelle, it touches Gibsonton and parts of Riverview. So
Oh,
very different over there than here in St. Pete, but that's been an exciting challenge as well. That is
yeah.
about 40% of the district, definitely not something that you want to ignore. So we've been intentional early in getting out in Hillsborough County as well.
Yeah, that's definitely like you said, it's I'm trying I like yeah, I'm trying to even picture it and it's I'm on the map in my head and I'm like that's it's kind of like the inverse of like what they did for Kathy Castor almost of what it sounds like. So or like maybe around the same area because I know it's I thought that I live in South St. Pete, so I thought that I was in APL's district. Thankfully, I'm not.
Mhm.
I'm in Kathy Castor's district, but I was like, oh, so yeah, yeah. So what? I mean, okay. So you've been here in St. Pete for so long. So how, I mean, what has I know St. Pete has changed so much. I came here. I grew up coming here. I'm originally from Ohio, but my grandparents live down here, so I've been coming here since I was a little baby. So I remember old St. Pete. So like what are your favorite parts about the changes that because I think people, a lot of time people will focus on the negatives, but like what have been your favorite parts of the changes that have happened over the last like 10 years?
Often asked about the negatives, so it's nice to be able to speak to some of the positive things. I think that it's been exciting to watch some of the development and the way that it has impacted people not having to leave to go
Mhm.
work out of the city,
Oh,
right? There was a point in time where most folks were leaving the area in order to work. And there are a good bit of workers now who are right here in the city. You have folks that don't really have to leave St. Pete or
mhm.
they can go really nearby. And I think that that is great. I think that we've done a good job while there's still more work to do in expanding even some of the transportation options with the Sunrunner and people being able to hop on that to get to the beach to kind of cut back on some of that extra traffic. Parking is still not great,
Right.
especially downtown. But those modes of transportation are super helpful. And I think it's also been exciting to see St. Pete become a bit of a happening place, right? When I grew up here, there was nothing to do, okay? Like if you were not an adult and you weren't drinking downtown, you were at Baywalk, um, at the
Yep.
movie theaters, and even then there was the point in time where there was a curfew and you had to be going by a certain time. So there weren't as many activities, and a lot of folks left here to even go over to Tampa to hang out. Now you've got people leaving Tampa to come to St.
Yeah.
Pete, finding value in that, and St. Pete being acknowledged by people who were even out of the area. When I used to have to tell people I live in just outside of Tampa or Tampa Bay because they didn't know where St. Pete was. Now St. Pete's on the dream list for a lot of folks.
Mhm.
So I think it's been exciting to see St. Pete become that sort of happening place and for people to be moving here and excited to come here. And hopefully we do that in ways that are well balanced so we aren't pushing as many people out. So, but
Yeah.
those are some of the
Absolutely.
highlights.
No, absolutely. And you're talking to one of the transplants. I grew up here in Florida, born and raised, but I grew up in Brooksville and I moved to Tampa in 2018 and I thought I loved Tampa. Or I did love Tampa. I do love Tampa for its own reasons. But when I lived over there, it was always the conversation of, oh, I don't want to cross the bridge. I don't want to cross the bridge. And now it seems like everybody's crossing the bridge to come over here. I
Oh yeah.
moved over here in St. Pete in 2020, and I can tell you I'm not looking back. So
Yeah.
it's
So
good to
I
see the
tell
community.
I tell folks that I love that we still have that city vibe. Like we're growing into this what feels like a big city while we're still maintaining that small town
Yep.
charm.
I
Like
Exactly.
say it
giving
all the
them mom
time.
and
That is
pop
exactly
shop.
what I say. We're a big
Yes.
city with a small town feel, and I love it. I love it. The community here is great. The residents are just everybody seems, for the most part, you have your outliers here and there, but for the most part, everybody seems genuinely happy. So,
Yeah.
um, I want to touch base on this. We mentioned it a little bit. There are obviously a lot of hot button issues. So, what is if you are elected into this position into District 62 as the Florida State Representative? What's the first thing that you would work on when you get to Tallahassee? What's the first and most
Affordability.
important thing?
Affordability. We need to lower costs. I think there are so many issues that, yes, we can be focusing on, but if people can't afford the everyday costs of basic living, then it's hard to even begin to talk about other things. So I think making sure that we're seriously taking the time to address insurance and not just using it as a talking point, and thinking about creative ways that we solve for things like affordable groceries and looking at how we potentially partner with these grocery co-ops and other groups for areas that are food deserts so there are fresh and affordable options in our neighborhood. So tackling things to make sure that we are making it more affordable would be my number one priority. We've got to stop the bleeding and allow for people to be able to catch up and get ahead.
Yeah, my brother lives in Spain, and I was just talking to him this morning, and I my niece was in town for over the weekend. So I took her. We went out a couple places and went to one of the it's been here for a while, but it's new to me, Mexican restaurant right around the corner from me. And we went, and I was like, yeah, no, we each got a meal and an appetizer, and I split margaritas with the girls. And, I was like, for the two of us, it was like, $70. My brother was like, what? And I was like, what? I was like, with the margaritas? Like, are you kidding? I thought that was cheap. And he was appalled.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and yeah, like it's the pricings of every, and it's, I'm not blaming obviously a small restaurant owner. They're just reflective of the cost of food, the cost of
Right.
everything. So it's just, yeah, I appreciate that being your top priority because we were talking about, because he did live here right before he moved to Spain, and we were talking about like the insurance is just like, who knows what's going to happen with insurance,
All of the insurances, home
right?
insurance, car
Cars,
insurance. I
exactly.
mean, it's to a point where people are considering it to be more affordable to carpool.
Yeah,
And
Hmm.
even down to the groceries, food banks are saying that they're seeing individuals who make $80,000 and above
yeah,
now showing up for free groceries.
yeah,
That's
Hmm.
just to try to cut costs. And if people who are making $80,000 a year are looking for ways to supplement and to make ends meet, there's a problem.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I saw a clip, and I don't know what city it was from, but I did see a clip from a news piece yesterday where it said that like for a single person in Florida needs to make $97,000 a year to like basically just get by. And like and then a family of four, it was over $215,000. And it's like are we in New York City? Like, I'm unsure. I mean, I love the beach and we do pay a premium for it, but like, woo, I moved from Toledo, Ohio. Okay. This is like,
That's right. And then you compare that to what people are actually making on average,
right, exactly.
30 to $40,000 less than what the
Oh,
single
I
individual needs, and that's as a family.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any questions about what the daily struggle is, you can ask me. I'm a genuine daily struggler.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's not even a joke. I'm in the process of looking for a new place to live. I have no ability to afford to buy a house anytime soon in this economy as a millennial. So we're looking to rent, and renting prices right now are just outrageous. Outrageous food costs. And like you mentioned, we are here in South St. Pete, we have a food desert. So, when you have people that can't drive to the stores, they rely on these food banks and things like that. There's one right around the corner on from my house that I go to personally most Saturdays. It's a struggle. It's a true, genuine struggle. This is not something that is affecting like the lowest amount. It's affecting everyday people. My mom is a registered nurse, been a registered nurse for 25 years. She's struggling.
Yeah.
She's struggling. She makes $80,000 a year, or somewhere around there. I don't know exactly. We don't talk money, but she's been a registered nurse for a while. She works at a hospital. She's struggling to
Yeah.
take care of her. The remaining my siblings that are still up there. It's a struggle, and we're seeing that across the board. So yes, absolutely, affordability is first and foremost. It has to be.
Has to be.
So the pragmatic question is looking at the, makeup of the coworkers, shall we say, that you may have that would be should you get into the seat. How do you approach that being is because I think is it a super majority they have? So yeah, like being in the minority, like how do you approach that, especially like as it as people that are filling these seats become more and more illogical and radical, honestly. Like how do you plan to work with that?
So not only do they have a supermajority, but one of the largest supermajorities that we've seen in our state's history. So that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
And I think a real concern when you think about how you want to get things done. While there are certainly things that I want to be able to call out because we absolutely have to, I think there's also a matter of finding common ground because I could go there and I could make noise and get nothing done for the people who live in this district, right? I'm still expected to go there and to bring money home for critical resources that the people need. I'm
Yeah.
still expected to go there and to fight harmful legislation and hopefully to put some things into place that can help to move us in the right direction. So the way that I really think about approaching this is, and it's funny, I had someone ask me this question early on, and it took me a moment and I kind of chuckled at it, but I've been working with Republicans for a long time.
Yeah.
I just didn't know they were Republicans
Right.
because we weren't talking about our political parties.
Right.
What we were talking about were the issues and the needs of the people. So I think even when you have individuals that are coming in, and to your point, creating legislation that I will not agree with, there will also be some common ground that I will be responsible for identifying, I believe, with a good bit of those legislators who will be colleagues because they might not agree with me on some of my social issues. But where do we stand when it comes to things like safe neighborhoods? Where do we stand when it comes to things like providing for those individuals who may be disabled or, things like that? So I think there are certain issues that we can fight, even when it comes down to floodwater. When we look
Yeah.
at Representative Lindsey Cross, an incredible example of somebody who stands firm on values that are very
Mhm.
democratic, but has worked across the aisle to get things done that are critical. She worked with Nick DeSegle, a senator who is a Republican, but they both came together and recognized that that was a problem impacting people who were in the shared area and in the district with having standing floodwater after hurricanes and storms, and came together to think about how to address that. So those will be the allies that I'll be looking for and really paying attention to where, not just the things that we disagree on, where we have disagreement, where can we potentially find some place in the middle that reduces the harm, but also helps to make sure that we move some things across the line for the people who live and work here. But also just finding those commonalities, the things that we can absolutely agree on without us having to go toe to toe with one another
Yeah.
is something that I've seen done well, and something that I hope to be able to model as well.
Absolutely. And there is definitely a way to work across the aisle, like you said, in a bipartisan way. There's definitely people that out there that will do that. I think I just saw a article the other day where Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri, is sponsoring a bill to increase the federal minimum wage to $15. So we're seeing these liberal policies go over to the other side, and realistically, it's because a lot of Trump supporters are white collar individuals who need that
Yeah.
$15 an hour. So I don't want to give them too much credit, but it's the fact of they know that this is an issue. They know that the cost of living is an issue. They know that they have the power to fix it.
That's
And
right.
so it's about having the genuine conversation of how do we move forward and make this work for everybody on equal grounds.
That's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
So I have like a nerdy question. And I'm a huge nerd. So like is there like a political figure or like a political time frame or like, you know, an event that like sticks in your mind is like that's really what activated the go in me to want to be a public servant because that's what you've done basically your whole life.
I could think of two instances. One of them being when I was at the University of South Florida, with the full intention of being an attorney. And there was not a pre-law track, and that's how I found myself in political science. I would have never chosen politics. It just wasn't attractive to me. I knew it was important. I just did not know how I could see myself engaging in it and more than casting a ballot, right? And so I find myself on this campus, and at the time where we were tasked with like knocking doors and things like that, that had to be around my sophomore year. We saw President Obama seek his second term in office. So all of that energy on the ground and being in the political science space at USF during that, anything from knocking doors to being there on the night of election inside of the news stations and seeing the numbers roll in from county to county and making projections on how things might go, that was like this initial spark of like, wait a minute, like this is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
You know, it just didn't become old white men sitting in a room talking over my head about things that I couldn't keep up with. But instead, this was somebody who was charismatic, who was energizing, someone who I felt was representative of the community I came from. So I feel like that really sparked a bit of inspiration in showing me what was possible, and thinking through what the heck I was going to do with this political science degree, if not going to law school, which I did not. And that worked out for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
As I say,
I
as a
think
paralegal, I
I
considered
think
it as well.
attorneys are, important. And I've had people ask me that question of, well, don't you have to be an attorney to be in the state house? Well, you don't. We have
Nope,
lots of attorneys there.
sure
How's that
don't.
working out for us?
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, so the second time I would say was just this past election cycle
Yeah.
because I had never been integrated into a campaign like this. A presidential
Mhm.
campaign, and B, it being so contentious with the opponent that we ultimately ended up with in charge of things right
Yeah.
now. We see how that's going. But being in that moment and being on the ground and seeing folks come in across different walks of life, across different generations in this last presidential election, working for the Harris for President campaign. We saw people across different socioeconomic statuses. We saw people across party. There were independents and Republicans walking in to volunteer to make calls for us and to door knock for us. And they were just seriously fed up with the way that things were going. And that became a defining moment for me because I poured so much into that campaign. There were so many
Yeah.
sleepless nights. There were so many missed meals. I was exhausted. I worked the hardest that I've ever worked in my life just to come out on the other side and lose
Mm-hmm.
and to give it everything but to lose, right? Ultimately, it's like that immediate withdrawal of like, did it matter? Does the work matter? But what I did experience on the ground was that run for office, even though our former vice president was not successful, I got to see so much fire sparked on the ground from that campaign. People who have never knocked on a door, never made a call, never stepped into a Democratic headquarters office, coming in because they're hurting, because they're worried and concerned about the future, for all of us. And so that became a very inspiring moment for me because I came out on the other side. And after burning myself completely out, I said, I would do that 100 times all over again,
I love it.
especially if it meant we could end up with different results. but I got to experience that power and what happens when you run for office. It's not just linked to simply winning or losing, but there are other things that you inspire, and I believe that people got to see themselves in our vice president, in that in her as a nominee. I
Mhm.
certainly had a chance to see myself and to think about how I could be integrated into the space, how I could influence, and what more I could do. So
Right.
those were definitely two very defining moments for me, and I like think
For
about
sure.
that even with this campaign and hope to inspire others and to spark fire on the ground and for young people even to see me and to say, well, she's doing this, this is what's possible. So definitely defining moments.
For sure.
Absolutely. And we need young people involved. We need young people running for office in so many capacities. People have this idea that in order to run for office, you have to have some sort of major degree, or you have to have some sort of um, background in politics and things like that, or you have to have a family member that's a current representative or things like that. We're here to tell you, you don't have to have any of those things to run for office. If you truly believe that you are the best candidate and you want to make change, then run. Run. It's not easy. It's a lot of work, but there are people in the area who my dog just fell off the couch. There are people in the area who will support you. So, it's incredible to see you as a young millennial joining this fight and joining this cause. And so I have one final question, and it's a bit of a personal one. So if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I want to set the scene.
Okay.
You got a night off. It's a Friday or a Saturday night. And I know it never happens. What are we talking about? But you got a night off. You're relaxing at home. You got a nice cup of wine. It's a relaxing night. What's on the TV for you? What are you watching?
Oh my gosh. So I hate to admit this, but I really love to indulge in my spare time in like reality TV. I don't know
There's
Trashy
no
what
reality
shade.
it
TV.
is, but it's just something about watching that and realizing that, you know what, things are not so bad.
Right.
That's not happening in my life, right? Things are
Yep.
not that crazy. So I don't know if it's the reassurance I get from that. But whether it is Housewives, whether it is Love Island, I just
Y-
started that. They're dropping an episode every night. I'm like, thank God, I needed something to like
Right.
hold on to watch at the end of the night. So I really enjoy just watching reality TV show, brainless TV.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right. Follow-up question with that. What's your favorite franchise of Housewives?
Woo! Tough. Between Atlanta and
Okay.
Potomac.
Potomac. Oh,
Oh my gosh.
They're
all right.
so
Potomac.
funny to me.
I can see that. They are pretty funny. I will give them that. So
And
I love
Rachel
Atlanta.
Zoe is coming, joining the cast of Beverly Hills,
Oof. See,
Real
I can't get into
Housewives.
Beverly Hills. I don't like Beverly
I
Hills,
haven't
man.
either. So then what's yours, Christian?
So
So
listen, it's between Atlanta and it's between the early seasons of New Jersey. The
ah,
early seasons of New Jersey. I want that Teresa Giudice Caroline Manzo fight. I want to see that. I want the Nene Leakes versus Kim Zolciak.
yay!
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's what I'm looking for when it comes to the Housewives. Absolutely.
Yes.
Love that.
Well,
Well, I think as we're getting ready to wrap up here, we'll wrap up with our final segment. It's our shout out or shut down segment where we either shout out something that's been fun and awesome this week, or we shut down something that is not so fun and awesome. So I know I have a shutdown. So does anybody have a shout out that they want to that
I
we
have a
would
shout out
like?
that I can start us off with.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. So I want to shout out two things. First of all, the first one being the No Kings protests last Saturday, and everybody who turned out for every single protest across the nation. It was incredible to see you all out there making your voices heard. I absolutely loved it. The other thing that I want to shout out is Donald Trump's failure of a political uh, rally,
Military parade.
parade, military birthday celebration thing. Did you see the clips of him just sitting there?
Did you hear the squeaking?
Yes, yes. The squeaking, no music playing, no horns blaring, no one cheering. It was so funny. It was so funny.
Yeah, and the army not walking in lockstep either. Like that was people, I mean, I'm not an army person, so I don't know about everything that content creators that I've been seeing that are actual veterans. They're like, no, 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 that was super intentional, guys. They're like, it's harder to walk out of line than it is to walk in lockstep once you have that drilled into you. So yeah, very good shout
As a
outs.
former band kid, I can agree with that. It
Yeah.
is much harder to be out of step when you're in that sort of group. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll go with my shutdown. This is not surprising if this is decades old beef, if you know me well. My shutdown is going to go to Supreme Court Justice Chief John Roberts, specifically for authoring the Skrmetti decision today, which allows states to ban gender affirming care for minors. It's many I'm just it's harmful. I'm so sick of us picking on trans people, and I'm so sick of us picking on trans kids. Like the amount of trans kids in this country is so small. We should be protecting them and let it, so much for this small government. Let me have my decisions between me and my doctor. Like this is parenting and doctor 101 that should be left to the families and not have state legislatures in there making decisions. So my beef with John Roberts goes back way back to Citizens United, but the fact that he authored this one today, I was like, nope, just add that right on the list. So
Oh, it's
that's my
so sick.
shutdown.
It's so sick when we have these conversations about trans folk, because you're right, they make up less than 1% of the population here in the US.
Yeah,
And it's a genuine concern when we're talking about the wrong 1%. The 1% of the trans individuals, they're not the ones causing the eggs and the housing crisis and all of that. We're focused on the wrong 1% here, and we need to really reevaluate and readjust. So
exactly.
it's that's so, oh God, it's sick and it pisses me
Yeah,
off.
As it should.
exactly.
Yes. So, Kyandra,
All right, well, I guess I can close this out with something positive. Christian took my no kings thing. That was powerful. So
Yes.
yes,
powerful. Still just amazed by that and really the continuation of it and the fact that they're able to still mobilize. The energy is still there, it's only growing. But I also want to shout out the Carter G. Woodson's Juneteenth Jubilee. I don't know if you all saw the pictures from that, but I believe this is their fifth year doing it. It's always a sold out event. It's an all white affair. And this year, the theme was boots on the ground. So
Okay.
folks came out in their cowboy gear. We had our hats on.
It's
Folks
giving Cowboy Carter. I
I
love
love
it.
it.
so, I mean, and that's exactly how I felt. So,
I love it.
really great time. And the reason I want to shout that out is because I think it's great for people to still have places where they can come together and feel community, especially in a time when so many people are hurting. It's good for us to come together and just be reminded of that village that we all have amongst one another. So I enjoyed myself. Shout out to the executive director, Terry Lipsy Scott, on that incredible event.
That sounds
Absolutely.
so amazing. I'm definitely gonna have to go check those pictures out now because it sounds
Yeah,
fantastic. I can
And
just
learn some
imagine
line
it.
dances.
I love it. Listen,
Amazing.
well, she grew up in Ohio. I grew up in Brooksville. I know a couple of line dances. I don't know if you do, Laura, but I know a couple. Oh,
No,
see,
I know I'm from Ohio, but I'm from a city in Ohio. Okay,
that's
I couldn't do a line dance.
that's fair. Well, it has been amazing to have you on. Thank you so much. Before we close out, tell the people where they can find you.
Thank you for that. It's been incredible to be here with you guys. Thank you all for the work that you're doing. This is so important. You can find out more about my campaign, follow along, contribute. We need it. We have to raise money to win. But sign up to volunteer, learn more about the work that I've already done and the work that I'm looking to continue to fight for us on by visiting my website at Darling. My name's here for fl.com, and you can scan the QR code that's beside me on this side or just visit this link, darlingforfl.com. Looking forward to staying connected with you all and to seeing some energy come through to the page from this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly hope so. Or, and like For our listeners, that's on YouTube. You can check it out on YouTube, and then I'll also post the links in the show description so that for our listeners, you can go in and click away that way. So, yeah, thanks again for hanging out with us. It was a great episode. Please remember to like us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're at For St. Pete's Sake. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen, and we'll be back next week with more stories from the people that are doing the hard work to make our community better. Until next time, for St. Pete's sake, keep pushing for change.